Everybody vamos, put up your manos. Members of Tonto Unidos, Chicanos, Latinos, and Los Estados Unidos. Don't care if you're Ricans or even Cubanos. Look at our coaches. We have more common, don't let them divide. These suckers are vultures. Either we standing together or better be standing aside. Now is the time, don't know about you, but I'm gonna ride. We gotta climb, fight for your Vegas, man, where was your pride? Where were the gunners that you got inside? Look how our ancestors came to this country. They tried to be living the American dream. Don't throw it away. They promise you money and catch your raging for the machine. Pick a new team, you blitz socialism, but that is a system that you wanna bring. You need to think, we gotta fight communism, cause it look like we on the brink. Connect on the links, a one-party system is taking the power from all of the people. We need to think, when will you listen, these people are evil and won't treat us equal, so what is your plan? Hand in hand, we're standing together, cause it's the one never to do what you can. Please understand, we gotta do better, so walkers remember that we took a stand. Escúchame, 24 es el año, si se puede. Lucha, lucha por la libertad. Órale, vamos.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Latino Free Minds. Another episode number 40. So, 60 closer to 100. So how you guys doing? How you doing, Chrissy?
Doing good here, ready.
All right.
Excited.
What's up, Peter? So on this episode, we have Peter Saddington. I first saw you on Matt Kim's podcast, and that's where I've been kind of following you. How's everything been with Matt and the podcast overall?
Very good. Thanks for asking. And first and foremost, thank you so much for inviting me on Latino Free Minds. I'm glad to be here. I've never spoken on a medium like this about the kind of the social world and politics and everything that's going on, especially with a couple of Latinos. So this is a first for me. I'm glad to be here. But to answer your question, Matt, the Matt Kim podcast is just blowing up. And what's really interesting is that it's mostly in the clips, which makes sense because we're in a short form video world here now. But it's been really exciting to see the inbound and the amount of response that we've been getting from these really just short clips, 2 minutes, 50 seconds or whatever. And it's really opening people's minds and eyes to what's really going on around us. So I'm along for the ride. I consider myself a Samwise Gamgee, if you want to take from a Lord of the Rings. I don't need to be the star of anything.
Yeah.
I can be the sidekick and the guy who just is the number one cheerleader. So I'm cheerleading you guys on tonight, and I hope for the best, and I hope for your success in the future.
Cool. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Man. When I listen to you guys, like you guys kind of, how could I put it? You guys balance each other so well. It's a good team right there.
We have a cool dynamic. Matt will say that he's less educated, less intelligent, less all these types of things. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think there are a lot of different mediums that people can attach to. I come from a deep educational background. Clearly, I've spent decades of my life learning how to communicate effectively as a venture capitalist and entrepreneur. So for me, I kind of add a little bit of the the educated sounding board for Matt. But Matt is absolutely street smart. He's an entrepreneur in his own right. He's a successful operator in his own right. So you can't take away from that.
Okay. Is that how you guys met, through entrepreneurship, or is it how did you guys?
We actually met through something even less valuable than entrepreneurship. We met through cars. So I had a couple cars. This was back in maybe 14. I had R8 Porsches. He had a Lambo. So we kind of met through the exotic car world. And ever since then, we've been really close. So from our relationship of going on to car shows, on rallies, and doing all the exotic car, YouTubes and all that fun stuff. He had a really great channel before, focused on the exotic car world. But what we're talking about is a lot more valuable now.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I heard you guys talking about that white Lambo. It sounded really sweet. And talking about that, I heard him say that he wanted to stick to American cars You know, how do you feel about that? You know, I heard you trying to bring him back into the Lambo and pull him in,
Well,
but you know, it sounds like his
mean,
bed is set.
I still rock them. I still rock them, Christian. So I mean, I'm a driver through and through. So I'm a second generation race car driver. My son drives full time,
Wow.
so now I support him. So he's the third generation race car driver. I've been into cars ever since I was a youngin. I mean, my earliest memories are hanging out with my dad. Working on cars and teaching me all about it. So it's kind of, I like to say that cars is a genetic disorder.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things that kind of runs in the blood. And so, but for me, the best sports cars on the planet are German. So, you know, whether it's a Porsche, a Lamborghini, and you might say Lamborghini, that's not German. Yes, it is. It's German. It's Audi. Right. So the R8s. So I'm a big fan of German sports cars. American sports cars are great, but I'll tell you, some of the best racing in the world is out in Europe.
All right, since we're talking about it, what's your favorite thing to drive then overall?
Well, you can't see it here. What's sitting behind me right here is a 2016 AMG GTS. It's got 300 pounds of boost NOS in it. It's got a Rentec Stage 2, so we're theoretically about doing like 920 to the wheel. There's the white Lambo that you were talking about over there.
Okay.
Here's one, and then there's the R8 back there, and you can't
I
see
see it.
other cars. But to answer your question, the best car that I ever drove was not a real car. It's a race car. It's a Radical SR3.
Okay.
It's a true downforce car, so you guys can Google it, Radical SR3 later. But it took me 9 months to homologate this car to street legal. So I was the first street legal race car, Radical SR3, on the East Coast that I knew of. And so what was awesome was being able to drive a real race car on the streets, you know, going to Starbucks, going to, you know, McDonald's, going to the car shows, and having people, you know, when people driving by, when people drive by and they see a Lambo, they're just like, right. But when
Right.
people drive by and you're driving in a real race car with a helmet on, they're just like, right. So it's like nobody knows what it is. So I love driving that, and I have to tell you this one story, because once you get the tires up to temp, they're slick, so not road tires. Once you get the tires up to temp, you can take a right hand turn or a left hand turn at a stop sign at near 70 miles per hour because it's so sticky. And what's so fun about that is I always like to tell my friends is that it's one of those man defining moments. And what I mean by that is that you can't hit a stop sign right-hand turn or left-hand turn at 30, 40 miles per hour. You'll end up in the weeds. You're just going too fast. So the only way to make the corner is you have to lean into it and you have to drive through it and you have to go faster. So it's one of those moments where everything in your system is telling you, dude, slow down. This is not right.
Don't do it.
Right, don't do it. Not like this, right? Not like this. It's kind of like death is calling you. Death is calling you. The death whisperer is saying, "Yeah, do it, do it." No, but you have to fight against it, and you have to speed up to about 65, 70 miles per hour so you can make the turn. But man, I'll tell you, when you hit that turn, your face is melted. It's awesome.
Yeah, that sounds crazy. That sounds wild.
It's a real adrenaline rush.
I can tell you lots of stories about that. So I love being here with you guys. I'm just curious, and maybe your audience has heard this before, and I've watched a couple of your episodes, but I haven't watched all of them, obviously. Just tell me real quick, like, what was the beginning of Latino Free Minds? Like, where did this start? I need to know this. This is important for me. For your audience, it might sound like repeat, but for me, it's brand new. So wax me philosophically. Tell me, you know, how did Latino Free Minds come about?
So pretty much, I do the other host. He's actually Danny is the other one. He's in Brazil right now, so he couldn't be on. So me and Danny, he's my brother-in-law. So we've known each other now for close to 20 years. And we would talk about a lot of stuff, you know, just between us, no podcast, just us talking. And, you know, I want to say a good, maybe 6-7 years ago, it first came up where we were having a conversation and we were like, man, we should just have a podcast or something. And it was just like a random, you know, we didn't do it, but
man, could you imagine how far you'd be now? You would be on Daily Wire by now, bro.
Probably, right?
Seriously, though.
I don't know. I don't know if I would be right now, but
Yeah, you would. They need that. They need that Latino
they need it.
representation.
That's true too. That's true too.
They'd see me
So it
with
was
that
like,
Crowder sign.
Or Beyond Crowder.
Blade.
I don't know, man. I tell you, time in the seat is so valuable. Like if you go, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but I just have to
No,
say,
no, it's okay.
like it's the long term dedication is what's required in this game, and you don't have to be great in the beginning,
Yeah.
right? You just have to stick with it.
Mhm.
So let's look out 7 years from now. Y'all be crushing it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it kind of, that's how it came up, and you know, we didn't do it. It was just kind of like a like, yeah, whatever, like let's do that. And then last year, literally, what's today's date? Yeah, almost like a year ago, October 23rd, we went on a fishing trip in San Diego to fish for tuna. And it was probably it was terrible. I was seasick like the entire time. We weren't you know, we didn't have none of the patches, nothing. We were just, you know, excited to be there. And just kind of on the drive back, we were talking about it more, and then we are like, yeah, let's just do it. So last November was our first episode. And like I said, now we're 40 in, and it was just that because we would talk about a lot of things. Um, you know, the main thing that we were kind of tired of is a lot of people, especially Latinos, if we want to focus on Latino side, was they get manipulated a lot because of the Spanish media. There's only two channels pretty much, right? Two main. You're either going to watch Univision as a Latino or Telemundo. They both sway heavily to the left. And it's like, you know, like if you're watching CNN, it's obvious. That's how they are. But it's like a lot of Latinos kind of take the news, because a lot of them are Spanish speaking only too. So they take the news as fact pretty much.
Oh, really?
But they don't understand that like what they're hearing on Univision could be like the opposite of what they're being told. So it's like if you watch CNN and everything they show you is out of context.
Yeah.
But they use it, they find that clip that gets them to prove the point they're trying to make. It's kind of like that for them, but they have no Fox News. You know what I mean? There's nothing to combat that. So that's kind of one of the things that motivated us into starting this, is because like, all right, we're tired of that, and you know, we'll see what happens with the podcast, but at least we're gonna try to give people a different perspective. And at the end of the day, if they decide that they still want to buy into that, or they did their own research and or whatever, and they still land on that side, well, it is what it is. But that way people aren't just being fed a narrative and just kind of running with it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make some broad sweeping statements here, but like one of the biggest problems with the boomer generation, right? The boomer generation is that they grew up in a time of news media, and they saw they were alive when the first TV came out, and that for them became their god. And what I mean by that is that TV could do no wrong. Right? It was the truth teller. It was the way outside of Podunk, small town USA, wherever you were, and you just bought that brand new 12-inch by 24-inch, black and white TV, and the talking head out of that thing was telling you what the world was doing and what was going on. Yeah. And the problem is that has continued till today. And the boomers kids who believe that the TV, now we have Fox News in America and we have, CNN. So we have some quote unquote semblance of balance here. But
right.
The fact remains is that regardless of if the generation is watching CNN or they're watching Fox, they believe it's all true. And so why do I bring this up? It sounds like in the Latino world, you correct me if I'm wrong, is that the older generation, they're maybe just a decade or a couple decades behind America, in that they still believe the TV is absolutely true. In the next 20, 30 years, the oldest generation is going to die out. And what's going to happen with that, as a matter of fact, will be the mainstream media will die out, because they're all those viewers are going to be dead. And the younger people like us, and even younger than us, I'm old, I'm in my 40s, but the even younger generation, Like they're not going to be believing that talking head. So it's going to be really interesting in the next couple decades to see the mainstream media, or what I call the legacy media, absolutely dissolve into nothingness. And I think it'll be really interesting to see what replaces it. I think things like this, Latino Free Minds, is going to be the mediums that replace it, and I hope that to be true.
Yeah, that's.
And
Go ahead.
I just want to say I agree with that, Peter, because and that brings up I correlate cable. How many people still have cable left, right? Daniel, I know you don't have cable. The only reason I have cable is because my parents still. How am I going to watch ESPN, right? And it's like, oh, well, there's YouTube and there's all these other things that we could get for way less. I mean, my cable bill, Comcast, is not cheap, right? It's $300, but I could get YouTube TV, $75, but that would be having to train my parents all over again on a new remote, on a new program, on a new interface. So it's that battle, right? So again, right, cable is almost out of the way. What does that do to legacy media, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it is fascinating. So I bet someone out there could fact check me, whatever the hell that means. But from the last time I read an article about AOL, it was really interesting. It was a really interesting article. And the article was discussing how at the time there were still about like 30 to 40,000 subscribers to AOL dial-up. And you might say, well, okay, are they actually using modems and that, no. No. They just didn't know they've been paying AOL for over 2 decades.
Oh, wow.
So AOL's just been sucking from their checking account, and it's $9 a month. So it's one of those things that it's easy to overlook, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like cable will dissolve over time, but there's still going to be people who just cannot be retrained, and they're gonna stay all the way to the end of life. And when they're dead and their relatives are packing up all their stuff, they're going to pick up that old TV and it's going to be connected to a cable.
No, that's true, man. I mean, like exactly what you said. Like, the legacy media that's dying out for sure. Because like, if you take us as an example, I mean, I don't watch Fox News. I don't watch CNN. I don't watch none of it anymore at all. I don't. How do you get your news then? Yeah. Most of the stuff is like I get it through podcasts like, the Matt Kim. I listen to Andrew Frisella. So different people that, it's not so much that they're giving you an opinion, right? So I mean, they are giving you an opinion, but it's not so much assigning you the narrative. It's like, look, this is how we feel about it. This is and for the most part, you guys have like facts or date or evidence that kind of shows what's going on. So pretty much through podcast is where I get my news pretty much. I mean,
what about you, Christian? Where do you get most of your news?
Well, for me, most of the news that I get comes from Crystal Ball and Saga, and that Crystal, she gets me, but if she's saying something that gets me upset, I gotta, again, right, that's the whole rule about trying to be a free thinker. You gotta if you don't like something, take the good, out with the bad, and if she strikes a chord with me, then I'm just like, all right, I gotta look into it, because there's a reason why I'm upset, and there's a reason why she feels that way. I gotta see it somehow, and it's a constant battle. But if I'm leaning full right, then I'm doing something wrong, right?
So how did you get into the Latino Free Minds, the free thinker movement of sorts, Christian? I'm curious.
For me, it's pretty much, we Daniel and I were cousins. We grew up, pretty conservative family, religious, just like this country, raised on Judeo-Christian values, that kind of thing, So we've always had that. We've always, I would imagine Daniel shared the same experience. I stuck out like a thumb. When I was running around in 2004 as a fourth grader going, George Bush isn't that bad. I don't know why everybody's upset with the guy, and that's just coming from my dad, that's my teachers going, hey, something's wrong with this guy, and I don't think it was a little bit of that, and I grew up with it. And again, back in the day, much of the things that I thought were, conservative weren't really conservative. Nowadays it seems liberal, but or vice versa. But yeah, it's kind of like that. Just gained it from the parents.
Well, then you were blessed. Then you had some parents that were at least a little bit awake, and seeing kind of through the veil and seeing through the bullshit. Right? Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
for it.
No,
No, the
100%. I mean, my parents just wanted us to work, right? They want
yeah.
us to make an honest living and treat people with dignity and respect, and then everything after that was just a luxury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it that's 100% true. And it's funny because like we grew up right going to church, kind of so we talked about a couple episodes ago about faith, right? And growing up with faith and how that it's beneficial because it helps you grow with morals, like a good sense of morals, sense of direction as far as like Christian said, you're trying to be a good person. You're not trying to be mean to people. You're trying to basically do the best you can. Because if you believe right at the end of it, you're trying to get to heaven. So in order to get there, it's like you got to be as much as you can be a good person, right, on this earth.
It truly is the greatest deferred gratification that you can ever have.
Mm-hmm. So so we grew up with that, right? And then my parents focused more on that, on the having a relationship with God and all that. But my dad never really talked about politics at all. But I do remember he'd always watch Bill O'Reilly. And back then Bill O'Reilly it was funny too because he would like, I'd be like, why is my dad laughing watching the news? And I would sit and watch it with him sometimes, and it's like, yeah, Bill O'Reilly, he would be interviewing someone, and then he'd just like kick him off, like shut the camera off, and then he just keep going on his own. And he would laugh at I don't know, he found that amusing when Bill O'Reilly would kick someone off his show. But without knowing, like my parents didn't focus on politics at all. It was mostly just go to church, be a good person, trust God, believe in God, and grow through Him.
So I'm curious. Do you think the reason why America culturally, socially, politically, and industrially, do you think the biggest problem with America is that America's lost God?
Yes.
Why?
Because this is what we said on the last one. I believe that because when you have God, like it gives you a sense of purpose, right? It gives you an end goal. And that goal is what it is, right? It doesn't move. When you're talking about the word of God in itself, it doesn't change. It's consistent. Doesn't matter what changes here. It's the same. The goalpost doesn't move. You know where you're going. So when people don't have that, they replace it with other things. And a lot of those things they replace it with, whether it's people, they idolize musicians, movie stars, whatever, movements, some BLM, climate change, all that stuff, LGBTQ. They start filling that void because you end up with a void that you got to have some kind of purpose, right? Some drawn out purpose in your life. And they start clinging to those things and they feel like, yeah, if I fight for this, I'm doing good. I'm doing, X, Y, and Z to, in their mind, be a good person, I guess. I think that's how, I imagine that's how they put that logically in their mind.
Right.
So that's why I think they replace it and they find something else. And then that other thing, you end up with all the kinds of stuff we're seeing in today's culture.
And if I were to put it, into one word, I would say, the main thing is to try and be holy. And holy means in the Bible, set apart. Doesn't mean greater than thou, it's set apart. You're set apart from while everybody's sinning or having fun, you're buckled down, you're at your desk, you're doing what you got to do to take care of your family, take care of yourself, push good things out onto the world. Because there's so much darkness right now. Everybody's negative. Everybody's a half empty cup. So it's about trying to see the brighter things.
Yeah. Oh, I really appreciate that. There is not enough good people pushing positive messages, and especially the Christian worldview, right? The
Mhm.
Christian message is and this word has been hijacked, but the Christian message is the most inclusive message
Oh yeah.
in, I believe, in the world, that it is that this Christian God is so accepting of everyone and their flaws and their faults. He accepts everyone. Now, he doesn't want you to stay there, right? He
Mhm.
wants you to be sanctified, and he wants you to be washed by the blood of Christ, who died and resurrected. Amen.
Amen.
And
Amen.
that's where right. But at the end of the day, his arms are wide. His arms are worldwide,
Mhm.
and I think that Christian ethic, just as you guys talked about in the kind of the introduction here, the Judeo-Christian worldview is absolutely permeates the entire spectrum of the United States, which is fascinating to me because there's so many arguments from the left and from pundits and social commentators, and what they don't realize is that their entire logic, their entire argumentation, and their entire narrative can only be can only work and can only function within a Christian-based society,
Mhm.
and and especially one of the best examples are the protests that we see, the irrational protests. Especially, I saw a meme the other day of the trans community talking about trans rights in Palestine, and I'm like, bro. The only way that you can have a placard and a card like that saying that in a crowd is because you live in a Christian nation. Like, go hold that sign over in Palestine right now. I'm sure you won't last very long. And so the irony and the hypocrisy is absolutely fascinating. And I truly believe one of the reasons, actually, I could say go even farther, one of the core fundamental reasons why America was, and I hope in the future will be and continue to be the greatest nation on the planet, is because of the Christian ethic. Would you agree?
I agree.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Well, I'm asking you guys a lot of questions because
no,
I'm
no, it's all good.
curious
And
about stuff.
it's funny that you said that though about the LGBT, because I saw I don't know where because they've been having protests here for pro Palestine and all that, and I don't know where it was, but somebody had the LGBTQ flag at one of those.
Mm.
Some Palestinians grabbed it and tore it down and started like stomping on it, and it's like
Well, they're just eating themselves
exactly.
now. They're just eating themselves,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny, but at the same time,
Yeah.
it shows a trajectory that we don't want to go to. But at the same time, it's kind of like who's going to
Mhm.
tell this person, right? Who's going to tell this person that none of this stuff makes sense?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you kind of asked us, and usually, usually we like to ask people too. It's like, what was your moment as far as like, do you consider yourself or more conservative than liberal? What kind of made you go one way or the other? Kind of, what was your moment?
Well, truth be told, I was like you guys. I was raised in a Christian household, a Christian ethic. My father is a Presbyterian pastor. He works at a hospital doing elderly care.
Okay.
And I went to seminary, so I got my MDiv, so I could, and it was a Southern Baptist seminary, so I could technically be a Southern Baptist pastor. But I consider my ministry to be the startup and entrepreneurial world. But so I was always raised with the Christian ethic, with Christian morals, and so for me, the waking moment was really in the late 90s. In the late 90s, we had the movie The Matrix, and that came out. And even early on, because I was such a movie junkie in the 90s, and I was in high school, college, and like when The Matrix came out, it was fascinating to read the forums. So in the 90s, we didn't have Reddit, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have any of this stuff. All we had were forums and essentially what we BBS boards, essentially bulletin boards and forums. And it was really fascinating that even in the early cyberpunk era in the 90s and these forums, is that the social commentators on these forums were talking about how the Matrix wasn't this fantasy, idea. It was actually more like a documentary of what the world is like. And I think that began my first cracks in my mental models around, what is this world doing? And then in 2001, right, that when 2001 and 9/11 happened, and we saw all the craziness. I can tell you the stories, but I mean that really began the larger cracks in the narrative as I saw that things just didn't make sense. And I'm a relatively logical guy. I'm a scientist by trade. I have 3 master's degrees. I'm highly educated in the sciences. So for me, logic and rationale has to make sense, right? The inputs, the outputs to a system, right? And so when we started getting reports around, why did they? Well, I'll tell you right now. Like, one of the things that really confused me after 9/11 is the fact that within days they were clearing out all of the rubble from the collapsed buildings, and that didn't make any sense to me. This was a crime scene. This is a crime scene that just happened. A crime had been perpetrated on these 3 buildings. Most people still think there's 2, but there's 3 buildings, and it didn't make any Yes, right. Number 7, and it just didn't. And I'm, this is 20 years ago. But like for me, even in my youth, 20 years ago, I was still like, this doesn't make any sense. Why are they moving all the scrap? This is a crime scene. And then we saw news reports. For one example, we're talking about Building 7, where a news reporter was talking about Building 7 collapse, and in the background, Building 7 was still up. You can find this online. You can YouTube it right now. Go look up YouTube world news anchor World Trade 7 still up while she's talking. And it's like, wait. She's reporting on a building collapsing, and it hasn't even happened yet because it's in the background of the video. And so, I mean, these things really didn't add up. And that's when I started thinking, okay, well, clearly there's a greater agenda. Clearly there are men and women behind the scenes. There are puppet masters that are pulling strings. And as I grew in my career, as I grew in the industry as a venture capitalist and financier and investor, I started rubbing shoulders with men of industry and women of industry that are worth billions of dollars. And I have been privy to conversations that have been transformative to me. And those conversations revealed to me the absolute debauchery, degeneracy, and absolutely zero regard for life, liberty, or anybody else. It was a complete narcissism. And the decisions that they made at the hundreds of millions of dollars level, and the big puppet masters today are working in the billions and trillions, right? So for me, even working with individuals that were just moving hundreds of millions, which is a small drop in the bucket, those men and women of industry had power, and they had mental models, and they had ideas of how to leverage that money for their sake at the expense of other people. And this, and so if you just extrapolate this narrative to the men and women of industry who can move trillions of dollars, billions of dollars.
Cheney.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to say it.
I mean, the narrative is the exact same. Is that and the scale is only larger. That's the only difference, right? You and me, we're a bunch of plebes. We're not moving hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So, I was only privy to these conversations because I rubbed shoulders with them. I was asking them for money and investment in my venture fund and startups, etc. But like it's only a matter of scale. And so for someone who's moving billions of dollars or someone who's moving trillions of dollars, the conversation sounds like this. They say, hey, bro, I got this amazing investment opportunity, right? We need to pull money together and we have to do X, Y, and Z and X, Y, and Z. All I'm asking from you is about $750 million to make this deal work. Yeah. Don't worry about it. We have to displace about 3 million people, but fuck them. It doesn't matter, right? We're gonna make a lot of money. So your 750 will turn into 4x, 5x in 6 months. And so international financiers, for them to make in 5x in 6 months on $750 million. Oh, just 3 million people have to be displaced and lose their homes and, maybe be killed.
Yeah.
No big deal. I don't know who they are. I've never seen their faces.
Doesn't affect them.
Yeah. And so, I'm giving you guys a small look behind the veil of the international, money
Right.
world and investment world that I'm a part of. And these people are despicable. They're absolutely deplorable people. And it's unfortunate that I've had those conversations, but at the same time, those conversations and being privy to those conversations opened up my eyes in amazing ways.
Well, we saw it during the pandemic, right? We saw with the whole vaccine. We've seen it with the opiate epidemic. People saying certain amount of people are going to die, but we're still going to bring in a net profit. That's good, and that's scary. So it's in every type of industry, right? It's just
Oh yeah.
it's these
And now
shady deals.
And now we're seeing the healthcare documents that are coming out between the big pharmaceutical companies trying to get,
Right.
the jab out into different areas, and the amount of monetary incentives that are attached to these agreements are outstanding. And so,
Yep.
it's one of those things where people will shake their heads and say, how could they? How would this ever be possible? And the answer is your eyes aren't wide open enough to the realities that money moves people to do crazy things, and the ramifications of those decisions in many cases are inconsequential because they're worlds away from the people who are actually affected. So it's a fascinating financial world we live in. It's not a clean job to have. Let's put it that way.
Well, you can
Cash is
also
king,
kind of
baby.
you can kind of also correlate it to like our government, because I think with what's going on in Israel and all that, Ukraine and all the war, right? A lot of them profit off war because they buy stocks in Raytheon, GE, or whoever the hell else, right? And it was shown that a lot of them did buy a lot of stock before all this stuff popped off. So it makes you wonder, like, you guys are that good, or and a lot of them are pushing war right
you
now.
guys want to know how to get rich?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Please.
Google Pelosi tracker. Have you heard of Pelosi tracker?
Yeah. Oh, I've seen it. I follow the big whale.
She's the whale, man. Like, just follow.
Yeah.
For some reason, she gets paid what, 220 grand a year, but she's worth 400 million or whatever. I'm making numbers up. Like
Something like that. Yeah.
the girl knows how to invest. So follow Pelosi tracker, and trust me, you'll make amazing calls. You'll make amazing money, just like Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah. It's yeah. She's got it down. She's good. I don't think she strikes out though. Yeah.
She's more than good. She's perfect.
So going back to like 9/11, right? It's a touchy subject. Nobody wants to talk. But I did hear you guys mention before, about these, false flags,
Yeah.
Do you think we've got some coming soon? With all the commotion, I think right now enough people's eyes are distracted to just, there you go.
So
Here's a brick.
None of us had a discussion about what I can't talk about. So since we didn't talk about what I can't talk about, I'll just talk about whatever I feel like talking about.
Yeah, no.
I don't want to get you guys censored. I've been censored before, but maybe the Lord is with you.
No, I've been censored before, so
okay, so you good then.
That's right.
You carry the battle scars.
Yeah, let's go.
Uncancelable.
Look. Daniel, Christian, have you guys ever woken up and really chosen violence and said to yourself, you know what, I'm gonna fuck somebody up today. I'm gonna ruin not only an individual's life, but you know what, I'm gonna ruin an entire population. I'm gonna ruin an entire sector or region or city. Have any of you guys ever woken up and chosen that type of violence?
Every day.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
every day, right?
I'm that close every day.
Well, you could be close, but you haven't chosen it, right?
Yeah,
I think we're all sometimes a little bit close to choosing violence.
We're not that pilot. Turn off the engine.
Yeah, seriously though. And so the reason I asked that question is I've traveled the world. I've lived in Japan. I've lived in Korea. Lived in multiple states. I've been all over Europe, India, China. Like I'll tell you guys, every single human that I have ever met on this planet does not choose violence when they wake up in the morning. They want to go about their day. They want to be three things. They want to be left alone. They want to be prosperous, and they want to be happy. And that happy in many cases just wants to be a function of what they're doing that day, right? Ain't nobody planning 20 years out here, right? They just want to get through the day
Yeah.
and feel good about what they're doing, feel good about if they're a man and they're the sole breadwinner, feel good about the income that they're making for their wife, their children, right? Like 99.99999% of the entire world does not choose violence, and they just want to have a peaceful life and be left alone. And if we take that model and we take that structure and we take that idea to its logical extreme, the extension of the extreme, then the only logical and rational way that you could look at the world is that the world wants peace. So let's go to false flags. When there are major issues that happen all over the world, I'm going to tell you guys right now, there's a 99% chance that was not done by an average person who woke up and chose violence. It is done by greater powers who have economic incentives to do X so that they can receive Y. We have examples across the board. We have examples that have been declassified, like the Gulf of Tonkin. The reason why we got into Vietnam is because we blew our own people up. It's like okay, so wait. This has been unredacted. This has been declassified. Oh, that's right. No one talks about it. That's why nobody knows, right? And so you can go down the list. You can go down and down and down the list. And so you might say, okay, so what's happened since 9/11? Well, shit, count the ways. There's been mass shootings, right, all over the place, from schools, from clubs to bars to the Vegas to like go pick your fancy. There have been major interesting weather catastrophes, right, that are happening out there, right? There have been interesting let's be more specific, fires that are really curious in nature, that are highly specific and targeted. I thought fire was a chaotic system. Actually, it's not. Clearly, it's just a complicated system that can be maneuvered somehow. I didn't know fire could be maneuvered, but clearly we have technology that maybe will allow us to do that. So I think the world needs to wake up, and I think there's going to be a point when the world finally realizes what I've realized for the last 20 years, is that every major mass event that is portrayed on the legacy media, the first thing that I say is there's somebody behind the curtain, there's a monetary incentive, and frankly, the mainstream media narrative is not going to be the right one. So call me an extremist, call me one of those, conspiracy theorists, that's fine. I just don't believe anything that the media says. It just cannot and no longer will be true. And I'd go even farther in today's world with AI, right? And all of the technology with machine learning and AI and generating false images and just like we truly are living in a Black Mirror world where almost nothing that your eyes see can be trusted. And that is not only a scary proposition for the future, but I'm curious how the next generations are actually going to deal with it.
Orwell.
Yeah. And it's crazy right now because you had said that, and I just got to notice that there was a mass shooting in Maine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like today?
Right now, yeah.
16, right now.
16 dead, 50 injured.
Oh, daggone.
Wow. Oh, wow.
So, okay.
Yeah. But,
So the question you have to ask is, in many cases, if it doesn't fit the narrative, you won't hear about it, right?
Right.
So are we hearing about this through social? Are we going to hear about this through the legacy media? If we hear about it through the legacy media, there's probably a reason. There's probably a narrative that they want to push. And that's why Latino Free Minds, for everyone that's watching and listening, smash the like button. Make sure that you let everybody know that you're listening to Daniel and Christian, who are crushing it. We need more of these types of podcasts out there. And I hope that you guys continue to grow and get exposure, because these are the things that are going to free people from the matrix, man.
Yeah. Right. So like you said, right, depending on who the suspect is, right, how much coverage is it really going to get or not get? We've seen it many times.
Yeah, I mean, sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, no, I was just saying, the shooting that baffled me was in Half Moon Bay. That's right around, my corner in the Bay Area. And that was it. You didn't hear anything about it. You just saw Gavin Newsom patrolling with his, on bodyguards to the teeth saying, we got to take away these guns and get rid of them unless this is going to happen again. And we never heard about why it happened, why a guy killed all his coworkers.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
it. That's all,
yeah.
Guns are
That
bad. Black guns are bad.
black guns are bad. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's the narrative is pretty. Oh, man, sometimes they used to have these tags on. They used to have these. I don't know these warning. I don't know where they were, but it would say stuff like "Don't shake a baby." And you're not supposed to shake a baby, clearly, because that's not
Right,
good for
right.
the brain. But sometimes you just want to shake people, right? You just want to shake them and just be like, "Dude, wake up." Like, wake up. Like, nothing they're telling you is true. Like, you're making very poor life decisions
Hmm.
based on what the talking head on the TV is telling you,
Yep.
and it's not going to end well, right? It's
Hmm.
not going to end well.
Because the thing that they do, and this is what we've been telling everybody, is they're definitely going to do things in a manner to get people emotional.
Oh yeah,
Because the easiest way to control someone is to have them emotional.
yeah.
So if
Because
you
because we all know that we make our best decisions when we're highly emotional, right?
exactly, so that's why like all the stuff like George Floyd, all the mass shootings that happen, unfortunately, they get people emotional and then they start voting. And in this case, it's like the news and how they manipulate people. It gets them to they sway them to one side, and
Yeah.
it's obvious, right? So come election time, it's like, well, okay, you know where a lot of people are going to go because they're falling for it
So
repeatedly.
so I've heard. So I actually, you guys are Latino, so maybe you will know better than I. And here's the
Not to be
question.
confused with Latinx.
Okay, well, I was gonna ask. I was gonna actually that came. Hey, see how good of a guy I take notes on what you're saying because there are questions that come up. That was actually one of the questions, but hit that in a second. I hear both sides that of the equation that say Latinos are growing red, but also I hear stuff that they're going blue. Like, give me the word on the street because you guys, I would assume, are closer to it than I am. Like, is the Latin are the Latinos in America, are they turning more red or are they turning more blue? What do you guys say?
You want to take this one, Christian?
Oh yeah, well for me, I don't think it's too. I think definitely the older crowd, they're gonna lean more to the right. They're hardworking. They come from the field. They know nothing but you know their work provides them food.
Mm,
That's not a victim mentality. That's I gotta do what I gotta do, and if I gotta bust, I'll bust.
mm,
Pause. But the kids on the other side, they take that for granted. The way I see it, and I
mm,
think it just has to be being young. When I was 18, when I was I voted for Obama. Sue me. So it's like I definitely had a different mentality. And sometimes that's what I get worried with the whole podcast thing because I'm not I'm not married to my ideas, right? I can't
mm,
be. My mind's constantly, "Yeah, I was wrong. I sounded like an ass,
mm.
or there's a different way to go about things, But
Mm.
again, yeah, I think it is divided more than ever, but yeah, it's for me it's a 50-50. I think it's just the older crowd and the younger crowd for now, but
But
yeah,
what I
yeah,
what
that's
I'm
that's just
what I'm seeing is I'm seeing because we people, um, and I'm seeing a shift though.
Oh.
I'm seeing a lot of them asking questions about why are things so expensive? You know,
Mm,
why is gas so expensive? What has Biden done? It was better when Trump was in office. I was busier at work. So like we'll have these conversations at work with people, right? And or they'll come up and just start asking questions.
mm.
And then they're like, yeah, if we want to put it in a sense of like Biden and Trump, because that's kind of how they kind of see it right now. It's like, well, I'm gonna vote for Trump this time. So I am seeing that shift. So I do believe a lot of Latinos are shifting, but it's like, for example, here in California, it's how can I put it? It's the area, right? For example, LA County.
Hmm.
LA County is heavy Latino, but they vote heavily liberal. And I don't know why. Because Latinos
Well,
naturally, inherently, if you go line by line, as far as topics, like, are you pro-life? Are you pro-God?
Yeah.
You're gonna end up on
It's
this side.
conservative. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna end up on the right, and then so I don't. It's that thing. It's that I'm telling you, it's that manipulation. So they get people emotional. So one of the main things they used against Trump right off the bat was when he said, they're rapists, they're murderers, they're not sending good people. They took that clip, just that, and then they're like, all right, they're talking about Mexicans or whatever, and that's it. That's all it took. Till this day, there's still people to this day that if you tell them watch the whole clip, that's not what he was talking about. He was talking about, because we get prideful too, but it's like, dude, Mexico glorifies the cartels and the narco, and what do? They're not good people. We got to be able to be like, all right, yeah, they're in anywhere, right? There's bad Americans, there's bad Mexicans everywhere in this world, wherever you're from, they're bad people,
Right.
and we gotta be like, okay, but there's people to this day that won't look into it. Their minds are made up. Trump is a racist, and that's it. But I think more and more people are kind of snapping out of that.
So
no,
so there's a guy in Atlanta that went on the Matt Kim podcast. He's kind of popular. He's a white dude, and he just asked people on the street, political questions, these types of things. You guys should do that. You guys should go out on the streets and you should ask Latinos like tough questions. Like, dude, I would watch that shit because you've seen so many videos of black people turn into Trump, right? They're all, you hear them saying like, I fuck with Trump now, he did, and frankly, they don't often have great reasons for why they're gonna vote Trump. But
he gave us that stimulus.
yeah, he gave me the stimmy, bro. He gave me the stimmy. So I'm not. They can do however they want to do, but from the media, from the not the legacy media, but from social media, it seems like the black vote is moving more towards Trump. And so I think I'd be curious to see if you did like a broad swath over time, and just see what what's the temperature in the Latino community? Like, how are they turning red? Are they thinking differently?
Yeah.
To just add on to that, Peter, it's what I think too is I think a lot of me and Daniel, we work blue collar jobs, right? So our workers, they're Hispanic, Latino, whatever they are, and sometimes we pick their brains a little bit, and I like to tell Daniel that I red pill them, but sometimes you'll get this one worker where he's asking all the right questions, and it's not for you to say anything else, but to just say, and how does that make you feel? I don't like it. And it's like, okay, then what got us to that? And then they're like, I think Biden. And it's like, okay, well, what can we do?
I think Biden.
Yeah, what can we do to go ahead? And it turns out, they're already conservative as they can.
Yeah.
They just don't know. When it comes to vote, it's, hey, mija, who do I put on the ballot? Oh, blue no matter who. Okay, gotcha. I don't care. I'm not even,
Is that a thing? Blue no matter who?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They're conditioned to think the Democrat is the good guy. So they just vote for the D. It's like you're going down the ballot. You don't know who the hell it is. You just see the D next to the name. And it's like, okay, this guy's a Democrat. He's nice. Because that's what the Democrats do.
He's nice.
They promised everything. They never deliver, though. But it's trying to get people to realize that, all right, you voted for them for so long. What has improved? How many times have they offered, immigration to be fixed? Many times. How many have they delivered? None. DACA, right? The border wall.
100 days.
Trump wanted 25 billion to finish the wall in exchange for Dreamer citizenship, which is like, if you're a Democrat,
I remember
campaign on, you take that shit. You take it, and you take that, you make it your victory, right? You say, yeah, Trump built the wall, but guess what? We got you citizenship. We promised you this. We got it. Boom. And it's like, what happened? They denied it. And what are they doing today? How much money are they sending Ukraine?
More than 25 billion.
Exactly.
No. Wait. Now we're building the wall with no DACA. There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
So,
exactly
and
true.
then
that.
the other thing, I don't know if you guys heard, but I guess America is targeting legal immigrants, particularly like Venezuelans, and they're working with the Venezuelan government to ship them on out. They're saying why, you know, well, Venezuelans come from that dictatorship country. They don't want to be
Mhm.
over there, So if they come
Mm.
over here, you think they're gonna vote for the same thing that's gonna put America into that socialist avenue? I doubt it. So why is it easy for the Venezuelans to just vamonos? You know?
That's interesting. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, like I always am, but it's just a way of me qualifying this question, which is simply this: like, it's funny hearing you Latinos, this Latino Free Minds, talking about deporting
Hell
other
yeah.
Latinos. Like that just seems funny for me because let's we never hear this from Asians, right? Asians don't generally get deported back to China or Korea or Japan or Singapore or wherever they're from.
Canadians.
Or it's just curious. It's kind of funny for me to hear you guys be talking about it. But if I take myself away from the race bait, if I take myself away from the ethnicity bullshit that the narrative and the legacy media want us to always focus on, what you guys are focusing on, the fact that it's just a fact. You have Venezuelans who are in here illegally, and if they're bad, we should send them back. Fill in the blank for anybody else. It could be Kenyan, it could be Canadian, it could be Mexican, it could be it could be German, right? It doesn't matter, right? If you come into a country illegally and then you're a bad person, you should probably leave. I mean, that logic seems
Right.
pretty sound to me. I don't know why people have issues
Well,
with that.
Well, I think some of it of a bit of that the Venezuelans, I think they are conservative, so that's
Mm,
why they're sending them back. They don't want that vote. I was hearing
mm.
about how you don't change presidents at a time of war, and that's something,
Really?
right? So again, it has nothing to do with Venezuelans being here. It's all about
The
you
vote.
know why the vote. Who are they going to vote for?
Wow.
They're not gonna.
I've never
They
thought
are
of that.
definitely not voting blue.
That's why that's
100%.
why the Venezuelans, Cubans also, Cubans get, we don't want Cubans here because they're not gonna vote for that Castro shit. That's why
Bro,
you got people like Jorge Masvidal talking on behalf of Cubans, like we ain't flying for that.
you guys just opened up another part of my mind. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like, thank you. I've never thought of this before.
Mm,
This is powerful stuff. Like, now that you said it, Cuba, Venezuela, like,
mhm,
why would you come to
When
America and bring the trash with you? Right?
mhm,
You wouldn't bring the trash with you. Like, it
Right.
totally makes sense. I mean,
yeah,
if
Yeah.
let's put it the other way, if Cuba was a ridiculously like liberal loving state, and all of the meat America had its tentacle arms into Cuba and making sure that they could propagandize them the way that they wanted to, and they're coming into America, they would totally be accepting of Cubans, right?
mhm,
Because it's the vote. They
Yeah.
get the vote.
they get to vote. Yeah,
Wow.
that's what it is. And it, like you said, the whole border thing, it's a manipulative race bait thing because
Mhm.
when it comes to Latinos, it automatically goes. You talk about border security, border wall, all that stuff. It automatically goes. They're racist. They don't want Latinos here. They don't want immigrants
If you
coming.
watch the videos, it's a lot of black dudes coming over too, and
So that's
a lot of Arabs
Haitians, all
too.
that.
Like, hey, yeah, Arabs, South Africans. I mean,
mhm.
it's
20 to
not
40.
just it's not just Latinos. There are
And
some videos I've seen where it actually looks like there's more like Somalians and more
Yeah.
Arabs than
mhm.
Latinos.
Yeah, yeah. If you look at I want to say it's a Homeland Security website. It'll tell you the breakdown. And
Oh,
I think I just saw the other day. So we've had so we have a guy out here in California. His name's Peter Hernandez, and he's running for Congress in District 18 in California. It's like the Bay Area,
hmm
San Jose area. And he sent me something where Mexicans are now the lowest uh, illegal immigrants crossing the border at this point. And that's the
Oh.
thing, and that's our focus. That's our focus when we talk about the border has been like, you got to not make it a Latino thing, a Mexican thing, none of that. It's a security thing because
Yes.
we don't know who's coming through, and it's not just Mexicans
Right.
anymore. The
Right.
the
Right.
border problem that was from the past generations, like when our grandfather came over. or our parents came over, it's a completely different situation nowadays. And, one of the stats that, I bring up all the time is last year they caught 98 suspected terrorists at the southern border. I think I just saw, I think that was for, what are we? For 2021, 22. I think 22, 23, it was like 167 in this past year
Like
that
double.
are on the terror watch list. And then, you get stuff like this where San Diego is alerting people that, hey, these people might have already crossed, they potentially it's like, this is what we're talking about. We're not talking about being anti anybody. We just gotta make sure we're prepared. We're vetting everyone as much as possible, because there's a lot of people, will be truthful. A lot of people hate America
I
too.
just read one of the bullet points there when you had it up there. It said like middle-aged men, military-aged males. Like isn't every
Sleeper
single
cells.
video and picture that we've ever seen in the last 18 months all
Exactly.
middle-aged males with military gear on?
Yep.
Like
And that's
so
why you have to ask, why are they all fucking military aged men coming to this country? You don't see, it's not, I see the videos. I think the last big video I saw was where they were all on that train that was coming or something.
Yeah.
It was all men. I
Yeah.
didn't see one family.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Well,
I don't.
that's the fascinating part about Americans' ability to abstract what they see from one event and relate it to another.
Mhm.
For example, and this is contextually relative to what we're talking about. If you watch real harsh, horrible events that happened around the world, like a major hurricane or major tsunami, right? And you have real legitimate immigration because they have to move. What do you see on all the legacy media? Women, children first, right?
Mhm.
Because it's real.
Mhm.
And then you have stuff like our
Heartstrings.
border, where they're called, they're refugees coming through America. Well, that doesn't make sense, because all the real refugee stuff that I've actually seen is like women and children, because they matter the most. Us men can go die on a hill, right?
Mhm.
That's what we're good
Doctors,
for.
engineers.
Yeah, right, doctors, right. And so the narrative at the border, at America's border, is literally all these middle-aged men. I mean, pick 18 to 38. Is
Mhm.
that's the range, right? And you don't see any women and children unless the children look like they're been abused, which is really, really sad.
And then that's what the child they'll show you on the news, right? And that's one of the main manipulations when Trump was in office, was the whole kids in cages thing.
You mean what Obama did?
Yeah, what Obama did, exactly. And have you heard about a kid in the cage since Biden took over?
No, of course not.
Exactly, too. Is
Doesn't
it
fit the narrative.
happening?
Of course it is.
There you go. If you
And
look at the stats, there's way more kids separated since Biden took over than
Yes.
when Trump
yeah,
was in office.
And we've had more, and unfortunately we've had more trafficked
Yep.
younger people thanks to Biden. Imagine how bad it would be if Hillary was in. Do you think it'd be worse?
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
I think it'd be 1,000 times worse, because Hillary actually is cogent. She's actually aware. She's actually awake, and she is smart. She is devious. She's been in this game, right? Especially with her husband in her back pocket as well. So we can actually consider ourselves blessed to have Biden in a
right.
funky, weird way,
Yeah, no.
because the alternative would have been literally Satan himself.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. Epstein would have been
humans.
alive.
Yeah, Epstein. Oh, if we had Hillary, Epstein would have totally been alive, right? Because
But
he's got so much dirt on her.
Yeah.
going back to the border, I always, me being Mexican, I've always, my community has always been predominantly Mexican, and it's always been, Mexican people that, yell the loudest about, being about the whole border situation.
Mhm.
But it's funny because, how many schools do we have named after one of the greats, right? Cesar Chavez. Go ahead. Go look what he has to say about immigrant workers, right? He hated them. They did
Yeah.
not work for his cause. And that's, that's an American. That's an American taking care of what is his here. If you want to come over here, do it the legit way. You're gonna have to do it the legit way, or else you're sending money back to Mexico, and that money doesn't stay here flowing. And that's what he saw. That's what he saw, because any little sidetrack was gonna ruin his movement. Again, he is a minority. He doesn't want to feel like a victim. He just wants to get his bread like everybody else, and a couple of little rights here and there I want to break, under the shade, and it got him there. Yeah. So it's just crazy how we skim all over that. We skim over that.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah, it's
Peter. Sorry, Daddy. Sorry to cut you off.
Go.
And this conversation is good, but I feel like we're running out of time, and I don't know how long this is scheduled for. But Peter, me and Daniel share the same grandpa. When I was like 8 years old, I was learning about Kennedy or something, and my dad said, "Hey, that's JFK." Grandpa cried when he died. And I said, "Oh wow, that must have been a good man," And like maybe a couple seconds later, he said, "Grandpa said CIA killed JFK." So Peter, back in the day, man, there's no social media, there's no Facebook, there's none of that. What do you think? Do you think it was that common sense we were talking about earlier? That input-output type of thing? My grandpa wasn't, a college guy. He wasn't, he was a laborer. So what did he see? What do you think it was something that he saw back in those times?
I still think there's common sense. Now, we just have to remember that the people on Twitter is not real life, right? People say, "Oh, Twitter is that's a great way of saying it. Twitter is just the cultural zeitgeist. It's the current, flaming flame in the sky that everybody can see, but it's not real life. It's a big pillar, a big light. It attracts a lot of attention, but it's like the reality is that I think it's like 99 or 98% of Americans don't use fucking Twitter, right? Or something crazy like that. One of those statistics that if you actually look at it, you'd be like, wait, what? I thought Twitter was like a thing. No, Twitter's not a thing. Twitter is not a thing at all. And so for those that are yelling at the top of their lungs on social media out there, they are not representative of the masses. And so I still believe that there is a common sense in Americans, and where they put 2 and 2 together and like, dude, it's not 5, it's 4, right? None of this makes any sense. But what has our media apparatus done amazingly well is they've created a cancel culture. They've created a culture of fear, in where literally the First Amendment was destroyed decades ago. And people don't like it when I say this, but I'll repeat it here on your podcast, is, are we allowed to say the N-word? No, we're not allowed to say the N-word. We'll get canceled, especially if we use the N-word with a hard R, right? We'll totally be canceled.
More of a soft A type of guy.
I'm more of a soft A type of guy too, right? I mean, I went to college. I went to high school. We used those terms, and nobody thought the better, because I was a homie, right?
Yeah.
I was one of the boys, right? I rolled with black guys and Latinos and Asians, and if we were having a good time and we listened,
we all had to pass at one point.
I grew up with Eazy-E, right? Tupac when he was alive, right? KRS-One, right? I mean, I grew up on like OG rap.
Yeah.
Cypress Hill was my fucking shit, dude. I had the entire discography of Cypress Hill, and even when they went into heavy metal, which I didn't like. But like Be Real was my dog, man. And so like for me in high school, middle school, high school, even college, like the soft A, like no problem. But we live in a world today where I'm not allowed to say the N-word, even with the soft A. And if it sounds like the hard R, then I'm totally going to get canceled. Why do I say this? Because the silent majority of common sense individuals in America see that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 5. They look at the Dylan Mulvaney's of the world, and they're like, this just doesn't make any sense. It's a dude dressed up,
man, Maury.
Yeah, it's a man, right? That's a man, right? And you look at our military leaders and in a round table, and they're all men dressed as women. Like wait, hold up. Where am I again? Is this Earth? Because like, did you guys see the propagandist for Ukraine, which is a man with a terrible
Yeah.
blonde wig?
Yeah.
Like you're a dude, dressed up as a woman, and
Pick
I'm
up a rifle.
yeah. Well, I'm supposed to take you seriously? Like,
Mhm.
Right.
there's almost no difference between you dressing up as a woman, terribly, by the way, or dressing up as a dinosaur. I wouldn't take you seriously either way, right? If you want to be a
Right.
dinosaur dressed up as a dinosaur or a woman, I'm not going to really pay attention. So I think the problem that we suffer from is this cancel culture where we have a silent majority who's no longer willing to speak their truth, no longer willing to say, you know what, you guys keep telling me 2 + 2 is 5, but that doesn't make any sense to me. And the unfortunate repercussions of this really began and were heightened around the 2012, 2013, 2014 period. And I remember this very clearly when college professors in 2014 were finally actually getting fired because they weren't towing the liberal line. And so that was one of those cracks in the matrix for me. I was like, wait, what? Because I was just one professor I remember down at, I think it was University of Florida, or one of Florida State, one of these Florida colleges, where they got, kicked out because they said something that wasn't even that egregious. It wasn't even that aggressive. It was just conservative. And that is one of those moments where I was like, dang, like this is going to be very problematic moving forward, because people are no longer going to be willing to say the common sense narrative, the common sense thing, which is 2 + 2 doesn't equal 5, it equals 4. And these talking heads are never going to be right. But apparently, somehow, some way, these talking heads are following and helping lead really bad policy that affects us all, but yet we're too afraid to speak out. And so I don't know if I have a solution, Christian. I don't know if I have a solution, Daniel. I'd be open up the door for you guys. How do we bring common sense logic back into the mainstream where it's cool and it's okay, and hopefully it will affect positive policy? What do you guys say?
Well, and this kind of ties into the first question you asked about Latino Free Minds. It's like another one of the reasons is because it's like, yeah, people are silent. They're not talking about these things. They're staying quiet, and the whole silent majority thing, like, I don't like it anymore. Like, it's a cool little name, right? But it's like, no, we can't be that way, because obviously the other side's being as loud as they possibly can be, right? We're silent. Why?
So let me. So this is something I've ruminated on and thought about in the past, and I'll bring it up because it just rose up in my gut. I think part of the reason why cancel culture was so successful is because we live in a Christian worldview, and Christians are some of the biggest pansies on the entire planet. They don't want aggression. They don't want to offend people in the name of Jesus, right? They don't want to feel like an outcast, which is fascinating because the entire church was essentially created by outcasts, and the whole purpose was to bring outcasts to salvation, right? First for the Jew and then for the Gentile, right? As it's written.
And they got prosecuted.
Yeah. So it's one of these things. It's like, it's almost like the bad guys figured out that the Christian worldview is the best worldview to overtake slowly and insidiously.
Wow.
Because Christians aren't going to fight you. You know what? Who's going to fight you? If you're in Palestine, the Arabs and the Zionists. I think that's important, not the Jews. The Zionists and the Arabs, the extremists. Yeah, they'll fight, of course. But your mainstream Muslim, your mainstream Buddhist, your mainstream Catholic, your mainstream Christian, especially if we use the word lukewarm, which you guys know all about, right? The lukewarm Christians, the lukewarm Catholics, the lukewarm Muslims, they're the best because they won't pick a fight, right? They won't pick a fight. They'll just go along with it. And it's like the frog boiling, right? You guys know the frog boiling.
Oh yeah.
And so I think the bad guys found out the cheat code. The bad guys said, "Ooh, Christian people are a bunch of pussies. This is going to be easy but it's just going to take decades.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And to add to that, right, you mentioned the Zionists and you mentioned, the Muslims, and it's like, again, going back to the United States, right? We're pretty much a secular country, pretty much for the most part. Everybody's steered away from God. But over there, we're talking about a different type of faith. We're talking, the Hasidic Jews. You see the video where they're spitting on Christians. That's
Mhm.
blasphemous to them. That's blasphemous to them. You and me believe in Jesus and Yeshua Mashiach, but for
Mm.
them, that's a person saying he's God. It's blasphemous to them. Now,
Mm-hmm.
same thing with the Arabs or the Muslims. I'm sorry. Find out what they do to anything that's not along their lines of,
Mm.
the Quran.
Well, they're
So
willing.
yeah,
They're willing to live the faith, which is, I
faith.
think, right. I think most Christians today in America do not live the faith. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They do not
Mm-mm.
run the race, as Paul said in Corinthians. Right? They
They
don't
don't
do
take
any
the
of
cross.
that. Yeah, you got it, brother. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think the cheat code was easy for the bad guys to figure out. It was
Yeah.
Yep.
Christians are because radicals want to change things through revolution. Revolution is aggressive. It's
Mm-hmm.
uprooting. It's very
Yep.
painful. Lots of tension, lots of death, lots of bad stuff happens in revolutions, and that's what extremists like to do. They want to make change happen in the next 48 hours, please. But there's the other strategy, which is the frog boiling, which is we don't need to rush nothing. Let's
Mm-hmm.
just slowly eat away at their rights. Let's slowly encroach. Let's see how far they're willing to go. One
Mm-hmm.
mask? No. Let's make
Yeah.
it 3. Right? And
Yeah.
like
17 boosters. Let's go.
yeah, seriously. One of the most depressing things that I saw from Christians during the lockdown, I will never say, and I'm gonna be a little preachy here for a second.
I think I know where you're going.
I will never say COVID. That never happened.
Mhm.
It was lockdown that caused the 3 years of suffering. It was the
Mhm.
lockdown. So when people say, "Oh, that season of COVID," you mean lockdown? Well,
Mhm.
we locked down because what destroyed America?
Lockdown.
A virus or lockdown? And then
Lockdown.
people are like, "Oh, wait, you're right." And then if they're really stupid, they'll be like, "Well, there's been so many COVID." No, there hasn't been that many COVID deaths, brother.
Mhm.
It was lock people, right? It's lockdown that's created. You had mental, disease and mental disorders and issue, all over the
Yeah.
place. Every single category of mortality is increased, from heart disease to blood clotting to diabetes to mental illness. Go on and on and on. Like lockdown accelerated all of that, and so I think it's important. And you might be cutting the cheese and saying, this is semantics. I think the semantic matters. Do not say it was COVID that caused it. COVID did not. It was the lockdowns that created the craziness that happened. There was the lockdowns that ruined business. And so, anyway, I say all that to say that we saw during lockdown the absolute capitulation of Christians. We saw Christian leadership wearing masks first. Why are you afraid, Christian brother in Christ? Do you not have this salvation? Do you not have the greatest power? Do you not have at your disposal the great healer? Do you not have at your disposal the great partner that Christ said that would join us? All right. But do you not have? Do you fear God or do you fear man? And I saw so much capitulation of Christians, and what was even worse is Christian leaders who essentially were leading their flock astray. Right. And they were saying crazy stuff from, let's mask up. Let's make sure that we socially distance. Let's make sure we can't, hug our loved ones. And it was really disheartening. I'm sorry.
No, no,
You guys saw that too, though, right?
I say I knew exactly where you were going, because it's like that's exactly my thought during the lockdown was, like all these people, these churches are closing. Why are you closing? Why do I have to wear a mask? It's like kind of like the question with that is similar to what you were saying. It's like, where's your faith? Right? Do you not believe that God is with you? God will, he's going to be with you. We're going to get sick, right? It's part of the human life. You're going to get sick here and there, but do you not have faith that God is going to be with you through this? That we have to shut down churches, not have services. Like you said, you can't sit next to your brother over there. He's got to be 6 feet apart, or the pew in front of you is empty, but every other pew, it's like, this is ridiculous. But that was
And
sad to see.
yeah, and Peter, like you said, there's people leading their flock astray, right? A mask, that's a worldly thing, that's the on or off, But when I'm driving up through the Bay Area, Los Gatos, San Jose, wherever it is, and I'm seeing these churches throw up, the LGBTQ flag, that's a sin. And again, you're supposed to accept them, and you can come as long as you're willing to change, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't see anybody putting a flag of a Heineken. I don't see them doing a flag of
a Corona.
thievery,
Yeah.
right? Things we're not supposed to do. Why is there an LGBTQ flag flying at your church? What's the difference between, hey, we accept you, come, and we can help you, but I can't be going to church on Sunday and sucking it on Friday, So guys, it's
I love it. No, you're not wrong, bro. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. There's a lot of hypocrisy. I think this lockdown destroyed churches. It destroyed church attendance. It destroyed people's motivation to continue the race. And so we're in. I would not say that we're in dire straits in America. I think America still is the best positioned country on the planet to succeed. And if you just have to think about our landmass, where we are, the oceans that divide us from enemies. Canada is just America's hat, so they're just useless. They're not. I know they're not a threat. Mexico, we're on good general economic terms with Mexico. You just updated me with latest data. I didn't know this, that the Mexicans are some of the least amount coming over the border now, which makes sense from the videos that I've seen as of recent anyway. And so we're still in an amazing position economically, relatively industrial, right? We still have some of the best education and access to technology, these types of things. So I will never gloom and doom over America. Are we doing A+? No. Not even close. Are we maybe a C+, B-? Probably, but that's being really aggressive. But we're certainly not in a Venezuela. We're certainly not in a Greece. We're certainly not in South Africa and some of those countries out there. We're certainly not Palestine. So we're doing relatively well. But I'm telling you, man, the Christian church is going to need to step it up in this next decade, because there are more influential gods to worship in America that are taking a hold, and we're seeing it encroaching in so many ways, right? So the Christian leaders, the Christian men and women of faith, really need to step it up in the next years, because there's the evangelism and faith is in a lot of ways is just dying here in America. Would you guys agree?
No, yeah, 100%. And it's we have to, as far as Christians, his church, it's we have to wake up collectively, right? Because at the end of the day, we're here on earth, we're his soldiers. We got the power of the Holy Spirit, and we got to use it. That's what we have. That's our tool. But if we're just sitting down quiet and then just kind of falling in line, it's not, look where we are today. We have time to make corrections, but we have to actually do it. That's what I'm saying. We have to actually speak up. We have to get involved and not just, just sit back and see what happens. I think we've done that, as the church, Christians or whatever, probably done that for far too long now. It's time to, get activated somehow.
Take a page out of the Muslims' book.
They're really good. They're really good. They're expanding like crazy. We should take, maybe there's a revival over the hill somewhere. Maybe there's a revival. I've heard. I've heard rumors upon rumors upon rumors that there are revivals happening, but certainly you would never know from the mainstream media because they would certainly not report it. So you got to really be tuned in and plugged into those networks to know if revival is happening. So you guys let me know if revival is ever happening. It would be great to see good, and don't get my words twisted here. I'm not proselytizing and trying to force people to convert to Christianity. Christianity has an amazing, powerful, and positive worldview ethic, moral ethic
Yes.
that even if you're not a Christian, but you abide by the general common sense: do not murder, do not steal, do not covet your neighbor's wife. Like these are not even you couldn't even say they're Christian ethics or Christian morals. These are just naturally ingrained in us as just being good humans and being a cooperative species instead of a competitive species, right? Cooperative species go farther, longer, right, than competitive species that are always tearing at each other's throats, right? And so a Christian ethic would be a good thing, I think, in most countries, if they're willing. Actually, that's not right. Christian ethic would be great all over the world. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, I mean, this was this is a good conversation. I'm really enjoying this one. It's I can see people saying there's going to be a revival. I can see it turning around, right?
So have you ever looked into the Project Looking Glass?
Looking Glass.
You guys should look it up.
Sounds like I've heard of it, but it's not ringing a bell right now.
You should look it up. So this was a declassified CIA project, I believe. I researched it years ago, so you guys can check it out. But there was this technology that they found, and I think it's hidden under the Vatican now. But there's this technology that they found.
You talked about it. I know. Yeah.
That's
where I heard
it allows you to see the future. And what they found is that as they put all these operatives through this machine and they all were able to see the future, what was really fascinating is that they all saw the same convergence of future, which is that something is happening in the future that, regardless of any type of inputs or any type of injections of change into the global timeline of how things are gonna work out, is that regardless of anything that any manipulator could do, there was a determinate future. And this determinate future is why they shut down the program, because no matter what they could try, everyone saw the same convergence into this one future. And what people theorize, and I think is probably pretty true, I think what the convergence of all these timelines is that it's the Great Awakening. It's that the world gets to a point when the veil has been pierced too much. There's too many holes in the narrative. It's too obvious to see that the manipulators and the world leaders are just doing evil. And I think that is the one thing. And maybe it's my bias, my positive spin on it, is that my positive spin is that convergence of a timeline is the Great Awakening, when Christians or just people wake up and they see that the world is not what they've been told, and that they take back power, or they move the right leaders to positions where we can actually create, an amazing, abundant future for the entire world, whatever that looks like. I have no idea, but it's an interesting couple of hours of research. I would highly recommend that you guys check it out, because it brings up, for me at least, the outcome of that research was, I feel good. I feel positive, right? If they had this technology that could see the future for real, and they shut it down because there was this imminent thing that happened that they could never control outside of it, then my positive assumption is that it's a good thing that they couldn't control, not a bad thing. It's a good thing that happened, and I think the good thing is everybody woke up.
Yeah.
He's coming. He's coming.
Well, that I didn't want to go super religious on us, but that maybe the Son of Man is coming back,
Mhm.
and they don't
Amen.
like it.
Uh-huh.
Amen. We'll leave it
Yeah.
there, brother.
Woo-wee.
Yeah.
Now
So
that's
yeah,
gonna get us canceled.
out of all the things.
Sorry, guys,
Yeah,
you're now canceled again.
Oh man,
Yeah.
yeah, it's all good. That means we're doing
Gotta give it
something right. Yeah, but yeah, man. Yeah, it's gonna happen. You know, people are gonna wake up. That's like, you know, we talk about all the time. You know, Danny, the other co-host, like he's always trying to look into the positive, right?
Mhm.
Because I think one of the main things that with all these manipulators are trying to do is obviously demoralize people, right? To keep them down, no hope. It's
Mhm.
like you give up, right? But it's like, no, there's more of us out there. We're the majority. We just have to be able to speak up, have to have other people start to speak up. And then, you know, as these media outlets and all these other things, they're dying down, right? Um,
Mhm.
you know, podcasts and all that are kind of picking up. People are going to get their information elsewhere, right? And
Yeah.
you know,
And
it's
all of these hard times,
Mhm.
if you have coming from a Christian ethic and a Christian worldview, you should always remember Romans 5:3, which states that suffering leads to perseverance, perseverance, character, which is being built right now for many people.
Mhm.
And finally, character, hope. That's
Yeah.
Romans 5:3, right? Perseverance leads to suffering leads to perseverance, perseverance, character, character, hope. And that right there is the Christian ethic, is that even through the suffering, you are growing a character of perseverance, of resilience, right? That will lead
Mhm.
you, if you stay the course for maybe
Yeah.
the great
Mhm.
awakening at the end. That is the great hope that I believe all
Yeah.
three of us share.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. I agree. I agree 100% because, what do you hear? A lot of men, for the most part, depressed, suicide. It's happening. That's anxiety, depression. That's not godly. Those aren't godly things. It's time to get correct. It's time to come to him. And what do you do when you're depressed, when you're sad now? They put you on SSRIs. They don't work, but they
Yeah.
get you more docile. Now you can listen to whoever
Well,
the higher power may be.
yeah, now you're hooked on the real cycle, right?
Mhm.
You eat shit, then you look
Mhm.
like feel like shit, you get medication for that
Mhm.
shit, and then it just round and round we go. So
Yep.
everybody's making money. Everybody's making money. You just end up being literally a skin bag of just moving money into healthcare, into
Yep.
all the all the junk food and all the bad systems. So it's just you're just
Yeah.
maybe you
You
are
start
just a
with a
meat bag.
pill, you get a vaccine.
Yeah, bro.
You're
Can we
docile. You're docile. You're not making your own decisions anymore. You don't
exactly.
got that, conscious. You're just going through it.
Yeah.
Well, what did God say, right? They're gonna spit the lukewarm out of his mouth, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
don't be lukewarm, man. Either
Mhm.
be hot or cold.
Mhm.
Be
Hot or
something,
cold.
right? Be
Yeah.
hot or
Yep.
cold. And I actually think if we were to just wax poetic on that for a second, I think God actually appreciates you being hot or cold. And
Mm.
and and and
Mhm.
and, and you might say, well, okay, what does that mean? It means you have a spine, right?
Yeah.
We had people like
Yeah.
Solomon back in the Old Testament. We had all these prophets of old, right? Elijah, right? Micah, right? Isaiah. We had and we had King David who wrote the Psalms, right?
Mhm.
King David, you guys remember what he wrote into Psalms? King David used to write shit like, dude, God, why won't you destroy my enemies? Why won't you flay them alive? Why don't you throw their kids off
Mhm.
cliffs? Like, God, why don't you defend your bridegroom Israel's honor?
Mhm.
Like, why don't you
Mhm.
destroy these fools? Right? Like, bro, you're talking to the most high. You're talking to the great God of the universe. Like, why are you yelling? Like, why are you cursing at
Right.
him? But God answered him, right? God answered David. God answered Job. He answered Micah. He answered Elijah. He answered all these prophets of old, right? Because they had a spine. And
Mhm.
they argued with God, right? There are men who wrestled with God, right?
Mhm.
And so I think God is more than willing to accept someone who's hot and bothered and upset and angry and just like, God, I hate you. I can't believe this. And God's like, yes, lean into it, bro. Let it out. I want to hear it. Tell me what your heart is. Tell me why you're upset. I'm glad you're coming to me, right? Because they could be going to porn. They could be going to other things to release, right, all their frustrations. They could be going to SSR, drugs, right? They could be going to other things. But man, like, come to God. Like, go hard on him. He got you. He can handle you cursing him out for 10 minutes, brother. Like, and the reason I say that, I think that's important, because that's when God can do healing, right? When you're at wit's end and you decided instead to go to drugs or alcohol or TV or social media or porn or whatever else that you could go to, other God that you could go to, I think God would be more than happy to have you come to him and be like, God, I'm 30 minutes, bro. I'm about to yell, kick, and scream, and I'm going to curse at you to high heavens. And at the end of it, just please heal me. Like, I think God be open for that.
Yeah. Well, those prophets you mentioned, they all fought with God. Jacob wrestled with God. So I do think, I grew up thinking, hearing these songs of pain, hearing people say, "Oh, I fight with God every day." No, I don't. I agree with everything he says. Whatever he gives me is cool, But there I am being lukewarm, I have to question, why me? Why is this happening to me? Is there a bigger plan? What's in store for me, God? And that way you are being thankful. You are being grateful for the things you have.
Well, God, the Bible tells us very clearly, especially in Acts with Paul, when he visits the Bereans, and you guys will remember, the Bereans were clinical; they were almost scientific in their studies of Christ and the story and the narrative. And Paul in Acts, he says, "Be like the Bereans. Do your diligence. Do your homework on this man God called Jesus. Like, don't believe me. Like, be a Berean. Go doubt everything that you heard down the vine, right? You heard this God man came, he died, he rose again. BS. Good. Don't believe it. Go do your research, right? Be like a Berean." And so that is I've used that in the past, by the way, and I'll remind you gentlemen here, is that whenever you meet a Christian who will has any issues with doing research or anything, you just say, well, that's not the model that Christ and that Paul told us about. And Paul told us to be Bereans, be doubtful, don't believe your eyes, research, dig in, and as Paul was obviously, proven correct, is that you will get to the end of that research and you will find the truth. And the truth will set you free, right? And so I just find it fascinating when Christians aren't willing to do their own research, when clearly the model of doing research is in the Bible. They just haven't read Acts.
Yeah, I mean, that applies so much to today. You know what I mean? It's crazy, and that's what we're saying. It's like the word of God is what it is. It's gonna be what it is. It's not gonna change. It's whether you're actually, going through it, listening to it, doing what it's instructing you. How to live your life, how to be a good person, right? That doesn't change, and that's where we were talking about, like, non-negotiable. Like, no, when you're talking about all these other things, that people substitute it with, those things are changing all the time. We went from what was it called? It's climate change now. It was global warming before, then it was cooling. It's just the ozone layer. If you use a bottle of hairspray, the ozone layer was gonna.
Yeah, what
I
happened
remember that in elementary.
What happened to the ozone layer? Did that get saved? I guess it got saved. I guess we fixed that problem. Okay.
Yeah. So using aerosol cans, it would mess up the ozone layer. So it's like all that stuff's moved, and it's gonna move again, because all these people, what's that verse? No man knows the time, or oh my goodness.
Right. No woman, no man knows the time of God's coming.
Yeah. Right. And then everybody wants to, again, it's a fear tactic, right? Yeah. You're gonna have people scared, thinking, oh, if I don't get a Tesla, the world's gonna end. It's gonna be my fault. You know what I mean? If I don't stop using fossil fuels, the world's gonna explode. Florida and California are gonna get, are going to be underwater. So it's a fear tactic, right? And people are basically, telling you the world's going to end.
Mm.
And
And that fear tactic, just like you discussed earlier, Daniel, it's all about the emotionality. If you get them into fear, you get them into emotion, and when you're emotional, you make very poor decisions, right?
Yeah.
And that's what they want. They want a world divided, making poor decisions. They want to feed them bread and circuses, just like in the Roman times, right? You give them football, you give them beer and football. Then like we can just do whatever we want because they're going to be fat and happy and entertained. And when they're fat and happy and entertained, and then they get sick, then we can feed them all of our, our pills and stuff. It's just a sick cycle.
Yeah, for sure.
We have to be ready. We have to be ready. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the time that Yeshua cursed the date tree. The tree wasn't ready. There was no bearing fruit. I just figured out that a date tree gives all year. Wasn't ready for Yeshua. Cursed,
That's
so
right.
we got to keep that in mind. We have to be ready. We have to be like those ladies with the candle, waiting for our bride, waiting, and be ready. If not, like he said, we can't be those thieves coming through the back door, right?
Exactly. And just like Peter said in his books, he said, right, always be ready for a good word, a good reason for the hope that you have, right? And that is, I think that Latino Free Minds is one of those places. Now that I've had this amazing time with you guys, discussing all over the place, Latino Free Minds is a great place for people to have an answer for the hope that they have, which is we have a God King, right, who came and most importantly died and came back. That's the most important part. If he didn't come back, then Paul tells us that we are to be pitied more than most men, because we believed in a false hope. That's 1 Corinthians chapter 31. But yeah, absolutely. Latino Free Minds is a great place to receive those answers, receive the encouragement of the hope that you guys have for the future. I love it. Thank you guys for letting me be a part of it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming on. Go ahead.
I just got one request.
Sure.
I like your voice, Peter. You're very smooth and everything. I like to see that you've got the word of God in your heart. Not everybody, in these times, not everybody has that. So I got one request, and it would be if you were, I don't know if Daniel's okay with it. It's his podcast, but if you were to lead us on an exit prayer, I think that from everything we spoke about today, I think that would be the cherry on top.
Yeah.
You okay with that, Daniel? All right.
It's Christian's podcast too. I don't know what he's talking about.
He's got that false humility going on.
Yeah. No, that'd be great, man.
All right, let's bow our heads. Father God, thank you so much for this awesome and amazing opportunity to meet in the fellowship of friends, new friends in this amazing podcast called Latino Free Minds. Lord, I ask for your provision, for your providence, for your power to be upon these two men, Christian and Daniel. May you bless their lives. May you bless their families. May you bless their words so that their message, your message, may go out to the world and touch those that you have already pre-selected by your Spirit and gone before us, preparing the way so that these men's voices will come upon not deaf ears, but ears that are open and are willing. Lord, you have told us in Romans 8:28 that you work for the good of those who are called according to your purposes, and that you will persevere them, you will bless them, and you will exalt them. Lord, thank you so much for your grace, especially your mercy, and even more so, your patience with us men who are ill-equipped, ill-advised, and sometimes ridiculously wrong. Thank you so much, Lord, for your patience and your love. And may you go before us, your kingdom come, your will be done. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Bro, Hashem. Beautiful, amen. Peter. Thank you. Wow. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Well,
thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit of my faith. It means a lot to me. I don't get to talk about this stuff. Usually I'm talking about stupid shit.
No, I mean it's like we said
Yeah.
last time. It's important, man. It's important, and
Yeah.
you know, that's the thing, right? Talk about things that people don't talk about a lot, right? Make these kind of conversations cool. Not talking about what happened, how many points LeBron had and all that. That don't matter. These kind of
I'm tired of
conversations,
listening to Cardi
like
B.
these conversations, is what we want to be cool. That people can have these conversations at their kitchen table. So,
I agree, and I'm glad that you guys are going to continue this type of podcast, this open forum. I hope that you have many more guests like me or better than me that are willing to share a part of their life. This is, like I said, I feel blessed because this is the first time that I've been able to pray on a live stream. Like, well, it's the first time, guys. Like
Yeah.
popping that cherry, popping that cherry, guys.
Yeah,
And the thing is that I'm not ashamed of anything I've said. Like
Right.
absolutely not.
this is who I am, flaws and all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to me. And thank you guys for giving me an opportunity to share. I really, really, really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
And thank you for coming on, and hopefully we'll have you on again, and we can have you as a repeat guest anytime. You're always welcome here, Peter.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right then. Well, everybody who tuned in, hopefully you got something out of this one. Trust God, put your faith in Him. Don't fall into the fear, and be strong, be ready. Well, thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time.